What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward, presented by Raymond. Empower your purpose with Raymond. I'm Daniela Bruce, soon to be joined by Art Wagner and Carly Johnston for a little bit of a special edition of the Word on Woodward. With the holiday on Thursday, we've got a shortened show today, so we're going to pack in Hall of Fame hockey writer Kevin Allen, Tigers Dan Dickerson, and hockey analyst Brian Burke, all within the next hour. We'll see if we can do that for you, but I promise you it's going to be a really exciting show. And of course, we'll kick it off with the big three, which will also look a little different for you guys today. Just taking a look at the top three news stories for the day. We'll talk the first one, a Tigers update. The Tigers added 4 players to complete their 40-man roster. All 4 of those players were pitchers. We've got right-handers Matt Manning, Alex Faedo, and Alex Lang, and then left-hander Joey Wentz. Now remember, the important part of this is that these guys are now all protected from December's Rule 5 draft. So these guys are on the 40-man roster and cannot be drafted by another team in December when that Rule 5 draft happens. And as mentioned, Dan Dickerson will be joining us later in the show, so we'll talk more about that coming up. Our second topic of the big three today. Again, we're sticking with the Tigers, and we're going to talk a little Winter League, specifically Isaac Paredes, who is currently playing in Mexico. He's played 9 games, you guys. He is batting a .379 right now in his 29 at-bats. He has 7 runs, 11 homers, and 10 RBIs. So those are some pretty good numbers. Again, when you look at this Winter League, much like the instructional league, it's a little bit more important in this year, especially since there was a shortened baseball season. These guys are getting their at-bats, they're getting their reps, and we know Isaac Paredes made a big impact for the Tigers this season. So exciting to see him doing good things in the Tigers Winter League. Again, we will touch on this later in the show, and we're going to get to our third and final topic of today's big three. The Red Wings, in partnership with PetSmart, are putting on their 2021 Pucks for Paws calendar. This is really exciting. It's always fun to see the guys with their dogs. They're doing these shoots. And of course, part of the proceeds go towards PetSmart charities along with the Detroit Red Wings Foundation. And they even have some cool merchandise this year, which is new for 2021. Bandanas, collars, leashes, things of that nature. So check it out. Go to DetroitRedWings.com/pucksforpaws and make sure you get yours today. And that wraps it up for today's Big Three, everybody. A big thank you to Chevy for presenting the Big Three. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. And I already feel like we've gone through way too much of the show without bringing in Art Wagner. So let's get into our mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars. And I don't know if you can call him a guest or not, but we're going to bring in Art Wagner for this one. Art, I've missed you. I am so excited to see you.
Well, yeah. Well, a couple of things. First of all, Daniela, new digs, glitzy and ritzy, boy. You really have moved up in life. That is outstanding. Right? You already have your Christmas stocking, I assume, already up there with the big D on it. And, I'll tell you, it's so impressive. Arthur wants to see it, too. Yep, see? Yeah. Yeah, he likes it.
Is that new? Have you had that?
Oh yeah. I got this right away from Tops from Carly's interview. Anyway, and plus I want to say, I know the Red Wings had that, that pet calendar, and usually there's a couple of cats that make it. And like last year, Mike Green had his cat, and I know a couple of the other guys are cat people. And I'm not saying this because I have the castle behind me. But could you imagine a pet calendar of all cats? I mean, I think it would be hilarious.
I guess I could imagine it, but I'm a dog person, Art.
Right. But I would imagine it would be one bloody mess. Like everybody trying to hold their cat, because some cat, you should have like blood streaming down your hands or scratch marks, and your spine. Well, because cats are kind of wild. You can some of them you can hold. Some of them you can hold. But most of them, there comes a point where either you drop them and let them do their thing, or they're coming at you as much as they love you. So, so I think an all pets cat calendar would be kind of outstanding. I think that would be, I would definitely love to see something like that, but cats do make it.
You would have to be the cover.
Oh yeah. Well, I would have all of them. I think Buddy would be all right. I think Emilio would be okay. But Reba, man, she's from a different planet. That cat is. Whenever we try to take her to the vet, we have to tranquilize her.
Art.
And seriously, got to take tranquilizers and give her a half little pill to get her to the vet. And it has no effect on her whatsoever. No effect on her. I mean, I mean, we could mainline I don't know, some sort of sedative in her, and it still would have no effect on her. I mean, I have no idea where this cat came from. I found her in the garage. She was this big, and I took her into the house, and she's been here ever since. But I have no idea, because usually a little kitten like that, all by themselves, there were no other cats around, no other kittens, no mama cat, no nothing. It was just her in the garage. So I don't know if someone threw her in there or not. But this cat is out of this world, man. She is out of this world. I mean, so
we'll do a full calendar on her. Her name's Reba. Reba, right? Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, because of the old Reba show, because she is definitely a survivor.
All right, Art, we're going to get to your fan questions now. We've got 2 for you today. Right. So the first one, Marty from Canton wanted to ask about Reba. No, I'm just kidding. He says, which player coming back to Detroit would make a bigger impact, James McCann or Jonathan Schoop?
That's a really good and really tough question to answer. I wrote down last year in 31 games, McCann hit 289. He 79 at bats. He had 28 hits, 7 home runs, 15 runs batted in. What's really interesting about James McCann too, his career average, 5 seasons as a Tiger, his career average was 240. His 2 seasons with the White Sox, it's 276. Now, I don't know if that's the difference between Comerica Park and, we have been known as every ballpark and every sponsor named under mankind, Chicago ballpark. I don't know if it's a difference between them or not, but, McCann has really found his groove as a hitter, and I think he's really impressive. Schoop in 44 games for the Tigers, and we know right towards the end he tailed off because he was hurt, and I think he tried to play through injury. He was at bat, 162 at bats, 45 hits, 8 home runs, 23 runs batted in. He batted 278, flawless fielder, was a finalist for the Gold Glove. I think it's tough. Good clubhouse presence. There's a lot of Latin Americans on the Tigers, and it's always good to have a veteran player, because a lot of them are really young and high prospects. Maybe to kind of show them the ropes and somebody that you can identify with a little bit. I mean, I think Schoop is a wonderful addition. However, I'm going to have to go with James McCann, and the reason is because he's a catcher. And I think we saw with Austin Rehmann, until he tailed off with the stick last year, that you really need a veteran presence, especially for the young arms that the Tigers are going to be up. You already said, Manning and Faedo have a chance of being on the roster. Alex Lang has a chance of being on the roster. Joey Wentz has a chance of being on the roster. There's a plethora of young arms on the Tigers. McCann has been a Tiger for 5 years. He was a Tiger, then 2 years, the last 2 years with the White Sox. He knows this pitching staff. He knows some of these guys. He's familiar with Comerica Park. He knows what it means to be a Tiger. He's worn that Old English D. He did not leave the organization and burn any bridges. Everybody likes each other. So I think they have a lot of young infielders too. Paredes, who's tearing it up in the Mexican League, he could maybe move to second. Candelario, it looks like that guy can play all over. So they have, Willie Castro. What are you going to do with them? So I think when you look at need, catching is a big need for the Tigers. That's why I would say, and this is a tough one. I mean, this is razor thin, but I would say James McCann over Jonathan Schoop. Actually, it's such a good question. I'm going to ask Double D that question when he comes on early. What would he do?
I like it. Art, I think you and I are starting to get almost too much on the same wavelength, because when I read this question, I thought the exact same thing. Both of these guys are great. They're impact players, but we need a catcher with all of the guys that we have coming up. So yeah, I think I'm scary on your wavelength lately. So with that being said, we're going to move on to question number 2. Emmett from Brownstown asks, last year we saw the 2019 NHL draft's top 3 all play in the NHL at some point last season. Since the World Junior Championships and the Swedish Hockey League will wrap up before the end of the NHL season, does Lucas Raymond have a shot at playing in Detroit this year?
Well, first of all, I think Steve has been adamant, and especially about the players that are playing in Sweden. They're going to play for the whole year. I mean, the Swedish Hockey League, essentially, if you didn't commit for their full season, they weren't going to take any North American or NHL prospects or players because they would rather develop their own talent. I mean, they're their own business. They're their own league. I mean, Swedish Hockey League, the SHL is a legitimate professional league that, does not need the allure of NHL players to, draw fans or anything like that. They really don't. And they're the third best league in the world, NHL 1, AHL 2, and then the Swedish Hockey League. In 19 games for Frölunda, little Lucas Raymond has 12 points, 5 goals, 7 assists, 4 penalty minutes, and he's a +2. That's pretty impressive considering last year he only averaged about 10 minutes with the big club, but he was one of the youngest players in the Swedish Hockey League last year. I go back to what Steve Yzerman said. When they drafted him, he said he has the potential to be an elite forward. That is not language that Steve uses a lot. He isn't effusive in his praise. I mean, he's realistic, but he's not really effusive. I mean, the biggest smile I've ever saw, and it was the gap tooth smile when he won the cup in '97 and he held it up. That was like the happiest I think I've ever seen the guy. I mean, just pure raw emotion. I'm not saying he's a curmudgeon because he's not. But what does this have to do with Lucas Raymond? I'll tell you exactly what this has to do with Lucas Raymond. This is Steve talking to Lucas Raymond. Yeah, congratulations, man. Be a Red Wing. It's cool. I love the Red Wings. I know you can't tell in my voice here, but man, I am stoked to have you wearing the red and white and the winged wheel. And did you know I was on a building for like 10 years in Detroit? I was really big, a big mural. So I know what I'm talking about. So anyway, you're not going to play here for at least a couple of years. All right. I mean, I just want to let you down. You're going to be in Sweden the whole year, and then we'll have you come to camp like in fall of 2021. COVID-19 permitting, and we'll see where we can go. I don't know. Maybe you spend another year in Sweden. Maybe we have you in the AHL, but the chances of you making Detroit, not very good. Just not very good. So the answer, a pretty good Steve impression, by the way. I'm telling you, I just don't see it happening. I mean, Lucas Raymond and Daniela, when we talked to him the night he was drafted, he wants to make the Red Wings next season, the 2021-22 year. He wants to, and maybe he can. I mean, these are pretty impressive numbers that he's putting up. Remember, he's a youngster. This kid's 18 years old. He's doing pretty well in the Swedish Hockey League, which is a better league than the DEL or DLE, whatever it is in Germany, where Mo Seider was playing really, really well as an underager, as an 18-year-old too. So, I mean, is it possible? It's probably possible, but he would have to be extraordinary. The one thing why the Red Wings like to keep him, not over, the old Ken Holland overripe thing, they don't want, even though Jeff Blashill, I think, likes baptism under fire in a way, if you're going to be on the Red Wings, and Jeff has been consistent, and I know this is Steve's philosophy too, if you're going to be on the Red Wing roster, you're going to play. They're not going to have Lucas Raymond just because fans are like, oh, wow, Lucas Raymond's on the team, and have him play 4 or 5 minutes or be a fourth-line guy. When Lucas Raymond plays for Detroit, he's a top 6 forward. He's on that first power play unit. He's feeding the puck to the BT Express. He's going to be a complete player. So if he really matures and he has that talent level to elevate his game, and we've seen young players coming into the NHL, is there a possibility next year? Yes, a possibility. I would say 2 years from now, he's on the team for sure. After this season, unless they have expanded rosters, if they expand the roster, depending on what happens the AHL season, there's a very slight chance, but I would say no to Lucas Raymond making the team this year.
All right, so it's a no. We still got guys to be excited about, though, especially Mo Seider. We got to be excited about him too. So yeah.
Well, he's in Sweden too, though, Daniela. Remember, I mean, he's not coming here till it's over. Their season
next year. You did. Never mind, Art. Never mind. All right. With Thanksgiving around the corner, if you guys have forgotten to get your turkey for some reason, you could always call Little Caesars. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheese Caesar cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. And now, you guys, it's time for Catching Up with Carly, which also is going to look a little bit different today. So, Carly, what do you have for us on this special edition of Catching Up with Carly?
Hello, guys. Danielle, your backdrop is looking amazing. Congrats on the new home. Happy to have you back. But with next week, oh my gosh, hello, it's Thursday, is Thanksgiving. Whoa. I wanted to talk about some social media posts that I've been thankful for this year so far. So we still have about a month to go. Great posts coming our way, but this is what I picked out for this year. All right, so first up, do you guys remember when Luke Glendening traded a puck for a box of Girl Scout cookies, Thin Mints to be exact? Check it out. The Red Wings posted it on their TikTok.
I thought I was going to get scammed at first because I really had no control of the situation, but yep, full pack, and I felt like I won that deal. I'll make that deal every day.
I would too, Luke. I would too. All right. Second, we have from the Red Wings as well. Do you guys remember when Dave Coulier and Jeff Daniels came in and read the starting lineup for the players? Hilarious. One of my favorite posts from the year. So let's watch it.
They're completely focused on just somebody to come in,
do a little shtick and
song, a dance.
a little something.
It's showtime.
A little something. Elite actors. Jeff Daniels and Dave Coulier. Hey, welcome.
Guys, what a pleasure.
You guys look great.
Go ahead, Jim. Oh, I wish I weren't drunk. Well, what this is a great. I've never been in here. It doesn't smell yet, so that's good. My boys played hockey, and so I'm very the hockey bags, and I'm very aware. We're going to do the starting lineups tonight. I'd like to introduce someone who's going to play two people, playing both of the McKenzie brothers, made famous by Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis. Ladies and gentlemen, forget the ladies. Mr. Dave Coulier.
Okay, thanks, E. Okay, like, who knows who the McKenzie brothers are? Okay, fantastic. Okay, like, we all know that, like, hockey is, like, the best beer sport in the world, eh? And if you look at, like, the lineup, there's, like, 3 forwards, 2 D, and a goalie. That's a 6-pack as far as I'm concerned. So with that in mind, let's talk about the starters. Number 59, Bertuzzi. I knew that was going to happen. Okay. All right, 70.
Go check out the full thing on the Detroit Red Wings Instagram. It is so funny. And then now switching gears a bit to talk about the Tigers. Something we've been doing, Dan Dickerson and I have been hosting this season. Amazing. Detroit Tigers dreams come true. They've done amazing. Amazing. I really can't say it enough. Fantastic job with these, setting it up over on the Tigers end. And this is one of my favorite. It was very hard to pick because they all make me cry, but this one made me cry the hardest, and that is how I picked it. Check this Dreams Come True out with Alan Trammell and Dan Dickerson.
Tigers Dream Come True program has created memorable experiences for Tigers fans for many years, and today we are pleased to be joined by a lifelong loyal Tigers fans, George Dralas. George, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much.
So you mentioned Al Kaline and Willie Horton. Who are some of your other favorite Tigers of all time?
Jim Northrup, Mickey Stanley, but also Alan Trammell, Kurt Gibson, and Lance Parrish, Jack Morris, and Dan Petrie also.
Well, you mentioned Alan Trammell.
Yes.
And we just happened to have a guy in the virtual waiting room who would love to join the call and say hello.
Oh, my goodness.
Good morning, George.
Good morning, Alan. What a blessing it is to see you. You're such a great person, and we're a great player, and congratulations on the Hall of Fame. I'm so excited for you. Watching you guys just all get together, be teammates, help each other, build each other up, give each other confidence. It was so wonderful, and it helped me through playing baseball as a kid. And when I grew up, it helped me. I worked at General Motors for 36 years as a manager, and being a teammate at General Motors, you guys taught me all that. And believe me, Alan, it was just a true pleasure to watch you playing and be part of the team. And just you were unbelievable. You're just a true blessing to be a Tiger. Thank you so much.
I heard that you tried out for the Tigers, but what position did you play?
I played I played third base a lot, but I also played right and left field. But when I tried out in Battle Creek, and then when I went down to Toledo, I didn't get drafted, but I was invited to go down. I tried out at third base at that time in Toledo, and then in Battle Creek, it was both the outfield and the infield.
Hopefully we can do this in person at some point later this year. That would be ideal. I hope that let's take a rain check on that, and when things get back again better, let's make that a date.
Oh, I would love that. That would be true blessing. Thank you. That would be awesome.
Again, cannot say enough good things about what the Tigers do over there with the dreams come true. Not a dry eye for me, especially. But on the flip side of things, we wanted to send a big congrats to the Detroit Red Wings TikTok. They reached 200,000 followers, the most following of any NHL team. So round of applause for you guys who are following them, and a round of applause for our social team, Stacy and Andrew and Art. I hope you're practicing your TikTok dances because you have through the holiday weekend to post one. So pick one. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see your moves.
Yeah, I'm all set too. I know we're already running heavy because I'm just like blabbering here away. But I just want to say, when you brought up Luke Glendening, I swear to God, I thought you said he traded a pup for, and I'm thinking he's going to give a dog away. He's going to give a puppy away. And I'm sitting there watching it, captivated. And then of course it was a puck, but I swear I thought you said pup. And I'm thinking, wow, Luke, I don't remember him giving a puppy away for Girl Scout cookies.
But Girl Scout cookies for a pup? Are you kidding me?
Well, I was wondering. I thought maybe Luke had a side business that he was breeding golden retrievers or something. I wasn't sure what was going on. It just didn't make sense for me. But anyway, yeah, my TikTok dance. I'm talking to the boss man, the boss lady later today. I saw Joe Valeno do one when we were in Grand Rapids for a couple of features we did. So I'm ready. I can't wait. I am going to be. It's going to go viral. It's going to go viral. Once I go viral, you two will not be able to. I'll be in rarefied air. Hopefully, I won't big time you, but I probably will. I'm sorry. I'm just giving you a heads up. Yeah.
It's okay.
Hey.
Watch out, those Dino sisters or whatever their name is.
What sisters?
Or they like creative TikTok. I don't know. I'm too old for that stuff.
Yeah, honestly, we are.
You know what? I'm just teasing. I mean, once I become an international star with my TikTok, if that even is possible, I won't forget. I won't forget you two. There'll be a coattail effect for you.
Oh, lovely.
Cool. I'll take that. I'm happier with that first answer.
Okay, good. That's good.
Well, that's all I have for catching up with Carly presented by Meyer. Let's hop into Bet You Didn't Know.
Let's do it, Carly. You're not allowed to go anywhere because, like you said, it is time for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. And we're in the holiday spirit, you guys. We're going to talk about Thanksgiving in today's Bet You Didn't Know. We're going to give you just some fun Thanksgiving facts that maybe you did know, but we're hoping that you didn't. So Art, you kick it off. What's your Thanksgiving fun fact?
Well, first of all, as you know, I'm very much obsessed with jellied cranberry sauce out of the can. You shake that stuff.
You buy it.
I love it. I love it. You know, whoa, boom. You know, I'm eventually going to get this, how this thing works, you know. That's when we'll probably be able to go back into the studio once I figure out how to work this stupid remote thing. But yes, you know, so here it is. You know, you open it up. What I love about it, it tells you how to take a fork and it'll come out. But that's not what you do. You open up the can and you just shake it out, and then it comes out on the plate and it shakes. I love it. First of all, there's a huge story. Smithsonian magazine in 2013, November 27th. I've got to thank Anita Bischoff, who sent it to me. I sent it to both of you. It's a whole story on cranberries and the cranberry industry. It's amazing. So I am totally into the jellied cranberry sauce, as you know. But that gave me, and I also know through my travels around the league, the Pittsburgh Penguins practice facility is in Cranberry, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
And I think, well, what other cities or what other towns have kind of a Thanksgiving name to it? Well, there's 3 towns that have the name Turkey: Texas, North Carolina, and Kentucky. So you can go to Turkey, Texas, Turkey, North Carolina, Turkey, Kentucky. Or if you really want to go to Turkey, Kentucky, maybe along the way you can stop off at Gravy Branch, Kentucky river. It's a river called Gravy Branch. Now I don't know if it's a river full of gravy or not, but it's wonderful and it's delicious. Then for dessert, Pie Town, New Mexico. I mean, you're going to be traveling all over the country, or you can go to Yum Yum, Tennessee. I might go to Yum Yum, Tennessee, because it's a little closer in the geographical thing. But if you want to get reflective for Thanksgiving, think about the holiday. You know, there's no Squanto, Michigan. Look up Squanto. Squanto, if it wasn't for Squanto, there'd be no Thanksgiving, by the way. But a big Squanto fan. But what I would do is I would go to Pilgrim, Michigan. It's up north on the west side of the state, and I would sit there. Hopefully it's on the banks of Lake Michigan, and I would just sit in Pilgrim, Michigan, and just imagine as I see the rolling waves, kind of like the ocean spray can wave of Lake Michigan. And I would think about our forefathers, our Native Americans breaking bread for the first Thanksgiving. And it would be beautiful. So I'm probably going to get in my car after the show and drive right up to Pilgrim, Michigan, and refuse to leave.
All right. Well, Carly, I always feel bad that you have to directly follow but you didn't know, because I really don't know how you're going to top it. But what do you have for us today?
I'm going to give a little bit of a history lesson, even though Art started me off there, because there's another tradition going on around Thanksgiving. It's the presidential turkey pardon, as we know. But there's a long history between Presidents and Turkey Day, surprisingly so. Various presidents, starting with George Washington. So, starting from number 1, issued proclamations to celebrate Thanksgiving in the early days of our country, but the times and month varied. Thomas Jefferson actually thought making Thanksgiving a national holiday was a ridiculous proposition. I'm happy we had Abraham Lincoln to disagree with him, because he was the only president. He was the one president who made it an annual holiday in November. So the decisions around Thanksgiving come straight from the top, Mr. President. But Daniela, what do you have for us? Because I'm very, very happy that Abe Lincoln was there for us and happy to give us a traditional big dinner.
Shout out to Abe Lincoln, because that's my favorite part. I think that's everyone's favorite part. But some people want to eat food and watch football, but there are over 1,300 turkey trots around the country and over 1 million runners that participate in them, making Thanksgiving Day the largest race day in the entire country. Now, I don't understand this personally. I am not exactly a runner. I'm the person that wants to wake up on Thanksgiving and just eat and watch football, like we said. But it is true that between Thanksgiving and Christmas, the average U.S. adult will gain a pound. which also seems kind of on the low end for me. But what about you guys? Have you ever been the turkey trot type?
No. Come on.
Well, no. You know.
My family starts off. Go ahead, Art. Sorry.
No. Go on, Carly. Go on.
My family starts off, mimosas in the morning, I mean, it's an all-day ordeal, Thanksgiving. I'm gaining way more than 1 pound just on Thanksgiving. Like, I don't know where that stat came from. Whose skinny butt wrote that? Yeah, it was the turkey trotters. Oh my gosh. No, I'm maybe we'll work out, Wednesday evening, Friday morning, but Thanksgiving is strictly for eating.
Yes, I love it.
Well, I was going to say I don't turkey trot, but and I don't watch football. I watch the Lions. So, I just want to get that burn in for Daniela there.
I usually go to the
there used to be before climate change became a reality. I think I can remember most Thanksgivings were snowing. It was heavy snow when I was younger. There was always a lot of snow on the ground, or maybe because there maybe wasn't, but I just remember the ones that had a lot of snow. So I think back then jogging wasn't huge. And I think virtually everybody just stayed in their houses, watched the Lions if the game wasn't blacked out. And many times it was because it wasn't sold out, the old NFL blackout rule, and did heavy drinking and heavy eating. Because at one time, seriously, there used to be a lot of snow on Thanksgiving here in the greater metropolitan Detroit area. That doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, let me get this straight. Art doesn't do turkey trots because it used to snow. I got it. Okay.
I'm not talking about just like a dusting like we had the other night. I am talking like major inches of snow. I mean, there used to be a lot of snow on the ground on Thanksgiving Day. That hasn't happened in a number of decades now. I'm attributing it to climate change, or maybe I'm just attributing it to God was mad at us back then and decided that he was going to snow on Detroit. I don't know. I guess there's two ways to go,
All right. Well, with that being said, we are going to wrap up Bet You Didn't Know. Bet You Didn't Know is presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Download the app and follow PointsBet USA on social media for more information. Now we're going to hop right into Downtown Hockeytown, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest is Hall of Fame hockey writer Kevin Allen, a returning Word on Woodward guest. Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's really great to see you.
My pleasure. I've enjoyed listening to reminiscing about Thanksgivings in Detroit, and I'm roughly Art's age, so I remember the snow as well, although I think Art's memories are selective. I don't think it was every Thanksgiving, but I remember being out playing Cream the Man with the Ball prior in the snow right before the Thanksgiving Day game would start on. Back then it was, it went back and forth depending on who they played. But one of my fondest memories was, I think it was 70 or 71, maybe Art can remember. They played the Oakland Raiders, and the game was not blacked out because they didn't sell out. And my cousin insisted that we go to Radio Shack, which was a new store, I think, back then. And we bought a large antenna and climbed up on his roof on Thanksgiving morning and installed this thing so we could pull in the NBC affiliate out of Cleveland so we could watch the game. And it was snowy both on the transmission of the game and at Tiger Stadium that day. We could barely see it, but it was probably worth $100 and some he spent on it.
Well, I can remember going during the NFL blackout rule. I can remember driving, like trying to get outside that 75-mile radius so I could watch the Lions. And every place where, and when you were driving, you could tell which bars or whatever had the satellite thing because they were packed. Their parking lots were packed. You would walk in, and I'm sure the fire marshal would have to clear it out. I mean, that NFL blackout rule really blew. It really, really sucked. because maybe rightly so. And remember, Tiger Stadium, what did it seat like 54,000 or something for football? It was a little bit of a different, like the center field bleachers were actually an end zone. I loved going to Tiger Stadium for football, but man, there were a lot of Lions games that were blacked out because of that rule. And then they go to an 80,000 seat stadium, the Silverdome, and that was even worse.
Yeah, we assumed we would never see them ever again, but always mysteriously somebody would buy the last 9,000 tickets so that we got to see a few games there at the Silverdome. But as I got older, the tradition for our family, if you ask my adult kids now, they're all going to remember is I covered the Lions Turkey Day game probably I think for about 20 years. And it was all when my kids were young. And my wife just always insisted that we could not have Thanksgiving dinner until I got home from that game. So, one time we had over 25 people here and they were waiting for me. And that was the day I had a second story to write. So everybody was waiting for me to eat Thanksgiving. And I think they gave it like 6:45 or 7 o'clock at night. That's what time they had it there.
But Danielle, I swear to God, the blackout rule, Kevin's absolutely right. Like every day there was an update of how many tickets were left for the Lions game. And you had to reach it like by 24 hours before kickoff. If you didn't sell out, then the game was blacked out. And I mean, that was really, without question, that was a major, major story here in Detroit was would the game be blacked out or not? I mean, and every day they were, it's like the election. We just kept getting, we kept getting updates like forever. It was the same thing. All right, well, and you're right. Like Art Van or Kroger or somebody would always come through and buy, or Ford or GM, and buy the remaining 10,000 tickets, so everybody could watch the game.
Well, it was on the radio would give you an hour by hour update.
Right. There's no blackout rule. I guess the United States Congress said that was kind of unconstitutional to have a blackout rule, and so they did away with it. Yeah. Seriously, I mean, it took a mandate by the Congress to get the NFL, which kind of is their own little fiefdom, All right, Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
I was just going to interrupt you, Art, and say, okay.
Yeah, let's talk some hockey.
We've covered the football. Now we'll get to the hockey. Kevin, the Red Wings are looking like a much different team than the last time we spoke to you, in large part because of Steve Yzerman's free agency moves. So looking at all of them, what impressed you the most about the Red Wings free agency moves?
Well, I really liked the whole package that Yzerman has brought in. And, what I really like about the way Yzerman has managed the Red Wings since he took over is that there seems to be a real clear plan on what he's trying to accomplish. And I think last season he was perfectly comfortable letting the team bottom out so that he could get a high draft pick, a chance to get a premium player, which he did. But I think he also realized how discouraging it was for the good young players on that team. If you're Mantha or Bertuzzi or Larkin, it's just hard to lose that many games. And so I think his mission this offseason was to make this team competitive. And I think he did that. I think he's made the defense credible. I think he's, by adding the players he did, guys that were veteran players like Stahl and Stetcher and guys of that ilk, I think he realizes, okay, we're going to be in every game now. And if we can get some improved goal scoring from our younger players, which I think he will, and then perhaps Bobby Ryan could restore the roar a little bit and chip in 15 or 20 goals, then maybe this team could, even inch toward the playoffs. I don't think they're going to get there, but I think it's going to be a much better team than it was last season. And I think it's important now. Like, I think he now has a core group of younger players, probably still needs to add a few more, but I think at this point now it's time to start, moving ahead and making sure that this group kind of grows up together and learns how to be competitive.
Kevin, the last time we had you on was leading up to the draft, and you were the only one. I mean, we had a lot of people on speculating what direction the Red Wings would go. You were the only one that said Lucas Raymond. You said, I'm here in Detroit, really likes Lucas Raymond. Since Lucas Raymond was drafted 4th overall by the Red Wings, I am under the impression that kind of softened the blow because they weren't happy dropping all the way to fourth. But to get a player like Lucas Raymond, I think now that the Red Wings seem pretty satisfied that that's who, quote unquote, fell to them at fourth.
Well, for sure. And this was a guy that people said prior to the season could be a contender to go number one overall. Like, he's a highly skilled performer. It sort of reminds me, they're not similar players, but in terms of what happened at the draft, if you look at Elias Pettersson of Vancouver, who's a brilliant offensive player, he didn't go in the top 3 picks. He slid down to, I believe it was 6, somewhere in that area, to Vancouver. He was smaller, and people were concerned about him. And I think Raymond was a similar situation where everybody knew how talented he was, but there was a couple of warts that people didn't like about him, and there were other good players as well, and so he kind of slid. But I think Yzerman saw him as the way that people saw him prior to the season. I think he just saw all the talent and thought, this is a guy that could be a real difference maker. And I think subsequent to that, one of the only benefit of the pandemic delay here in the start of the season is we've been able to sort of watch these younger players develop in the Swedish Elite League. And he's playing, from what I've heard, very, very well over there, along with Berggren, who's also playing well. So I think his development is being aided by the fact he's playing at a high level over there in the Swedish Elite League. But I've had people around the league say, if the Red Wings wanted, they could have plugged him in. He had a chance to play now. But we know how 18-year-olds are in the NHL. Like, he wouldn't have been an impact player. He would have struggled. But some teams keep their 18-year-olds. The Red Wings were not going to do that. But he probably could play in this league and not embarrass himself.
Well, Kevin, unfortunately, that is all the time we have in today's abbreviated edition of the Word on Woodward. But keep your phone ready, because I'm hoping that soon we have some NHL news, and we'll have to have you back to talk about that. But thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, my pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving to you both, and I think we'll be playing hockey before too long anyway.
No, yes, that's good news.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, Kevin. Thank you. And a big thank you to Labatt Blue Light for presenting Downtown Hockey Town. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Another big thank you to Kevin for joining us. As I said, we'll definitely be having him back on shortly. And now we're going to get into Brush Street Beat, presented by our friends at McLaren Healthcare. And today's guest is a very familiar face, Dan Dickerson, Tigers radio play-by-play announcer. Dan, as always, it's great to see you. I missed you last week. I think I may have missed you more than I missed Art, actually.
Is that possible?
Hey, it is. Let me tell
I like
you.
your new background, Daniela, and the stocking hung by the chimney with care. Beautiful.
Thank you. In hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there, but I'll probably get cold this year. I don't know if I've been that good. Well, Dan, we've had a little bit of Tigers news here, and the fact that they added 4 new names to complete that 40-man roster. We talked about it earlier in the big 3, 4 pitchers: Matt Manning, Alex Faedo, Alex Lang, and Joey Wentz, meaning that they are all going to be protected from the Rule 5 draft in December. Now, I want to focus on, I don't want to say the less popular names, but the names that you don't hear as much, in Alex Lang and Joey Wentz. What is it about them that the Tigers wanted to protect?
Joey Wentz, what he did at AA and after the trade from Atlanta last year, really opened some eyes. It was a lot of swing and miss, high strikeout rate, just good stuff. And I think they're really excited about, this young man was on the same track of perhaps, he would have been at AAA this year, and in a normal year might have even made his major league debut. That's how much he impressed in 2019 at AA. Then, of course, Tommy John surgery in March, so he's going to be out probably most of 2021. But it's an arm that had rocketed up in terms of what they thought about him and his future. And Joey Wentz is very much really in the big 5, if you include Faedo, along with Mize, Manning, and Skubal. So Joey Wentz is top. We haven't heard as much about Alex Lang, kind of a minor piece in a trade made last summer. But I also think it might have been 2 summers ago now. But I think this is a guy who quietly has stuff, that the Tigers really like and might actually become a nice piece in the rotation down the road. So I think it says a lot. Here's a guy, again, the numbers don't jump out at you. They don't overwhelm you. Everybody else gets a lot of the publicity, but quietly, Alex Lang, I think, has impressed a lot of people in the organization, and clearly being added to the 40-man certainly suggests that he's closer to the major leagues than a lot of people think. And I always have to say, given a normal year, he might have progressed quite rapidly this year, and a guy to keep an eye on. And it's, again, part of that pitching depth that is going to serve the Tigers very well in the years ahead.
Double D, number one, I hope you got your jellied cranberry sauce, because I understand there's a big run in Metro Detroit. The stocks are almost, the shelves are almost completely bare. So
no question,
I hope you have
no question. Art, you painted such a vivid picture, and then you sent the picture today, and I could literally hear it coming out of the can. I literally could. It was very helpful that you sent that picture. There's no question there's a run. And I think the thing that tilted our family in favor of getting it, we're very aware. There it is. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It not even in a static shot can it remain static. I mean, it's moving all the time. But the fact that there are only 24 grams of added sugar, that's nothing. I mean, we're very conscious of how much added sugar is in a product, but only 24 grams in a can? Wow, that's like stealing.
It's 25 grams of total sugar. 24 have been added to the mix. Maybe that's how they get it jelly. But the sound it makes when it comes out of the can is wonderful. With that said, I know we can go maybe some surprises who the Tigers didn't protect, who are eligible for the Roof Live draft. But I really want to ask you this question, because it was kind of a stumper earlier that I had. You can only choose one: James McCann or Jonathan Scope to add to the Tigers roster next year. Which guy would you sign?
This is no slight and doesn't say anything about Jonathan Scope, who I liked a lot in the brief time that he was with the Tigers this year. But to me, it's James McCann. James McCann obviously let go a couple of years ago, but I mean, he's available. He's everything you want in a catcher. You get the whole thing that, I had a really great conversation with AJ Hinch yesterday about the role of catchers. I mean, think about how we evaluate catchers. The arm, that's what we're seeing right here from James McCann, throwing from his knees and throwing guys out at second base. How you frame pitches and plus minus on framing pitches. How many extra strikes do you get for your pitcher? He's worked very hard at that to go from below average to now a tick above average. If you're near average, I think that really, you're in the ballpark now. You really are. Because what AJ Hinch emphasized, that ability to instinctively call a game. James McCann, I think, is there. I mean, I would have to hear from somebody like AJ Hinch, who knows how to evaluate these things better than any fan is going to be able to. But here's a guy who studies. But then the next level is, can you make the adjustment during the game? Can you say, okay, third time through the order, we're facing Jose Abreu for a third time. He's already got 2 hits. We've tried this. Now I see that he's looking for that. Are we going to go in instead of away? Are we going to go up instead of down? Whatever it is, that ability to adjust on the fly. So he does his homework, incredible preparation. And I've got to believe that he has progressed to the point where AJ Hinch would say, this is a guy who knows how to call a game instinctively. And he said that is the biggest impact on the team, that catcher who knows how to call a game by blending all that information before the game with what he's seeing during the game. And I think James McCann has that. Leadership abilities off the chart. The key is they need to get more offensive production out of that position, right? It's been a while, and that's the reason they let him go. He just really struggled. I always remind people, think of what he dealt with that winter before the season in 2018, when he struggled offensively. Oh, I don't know, 2 premature twins who were born in December that he basically lived at the hospital the entire offseason and didn't quite get to prepare like he might have wanted to prepare. The twins are now healthy and beautiful, by the way. But James McCann, to me, I just think it's a slam dunk. I do. It might cost you a bit, but you know what? Let's say you have to sign him to a 2 or 3 year deal. Is that the worst thing that happens? I mean, there is nobody on this roster right now. I still think Jake Rogers can be a number 1 catcher. He's not going to be that this year, clearly. and he might not be next year. Would it be the worst thing in the world if Jake Rogers had 2 years as a backup to James McCann to get ready to be a number one catcher? Not at all.
One might say that's a good thing, Dan, but I have one final question for you quickly here before we wrap it up. Isaac Paredes in Winter League, he's playing in Mexico. Another thing we talked about earlier in the Big Three. His numbers are really good, and I don't want to read too much into this because normally we don't really talk that much about Winter League, but in a year where players really could use at-bats, how important is this for him?
I think it goes back to what Al Avila and others have talked about, that he has played in the Mexican winter leagues for some years now. I think starting at age 19, maybe even 18. And think about the value of that. He has faced experienced guys in their 20s, 30s, who know how to pitch and know how to get guys out. And that has, I don't think any question, helped speed up his development as a hitter. And again, this is one of the few players I can remember coming through the Tigers minor league who walks almost as much as he strikes out. Even though we saw the struggles this year, and he did after a 2 for 36, he did have a good finish this year, which I think also tells you a little bit something about him. But that experience in the winter leagues, they've referenced that more than a few times. So I think it is important that he's faced those veteran pitchers who are much older and have that savvy, even if they don't have the stuff, know how to get you out. And he's developed into a very good hitter at the minor league level. And I think it's great news. I really do, that he's putting up good numbers, great numbers so far this winter. I think it serves him very well. Those guys who walk almost as much as they strike out in the minor leagues, Willie Castro was also in that group. That's a very good sign. It speaks to plate discipline. It speaks to the ability to make contact. In the case of Isaac Paredes and Willie Castro, for that matter, the ability to make contact with some oomph behind it. And I can't wait to see what he does. He might not make the team out of spring training, but he still remains, ahead of Torkelson and Green, just because they're in the lower minor leagues. Right now, the best hitting prospect closest to the major leagues, along with Willie Castro. But the power upside, I think, has people excited.
Definitely has me excited, Dan. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us again today. And I know, as everything is, Thanksgiving is going to be a little different this year, but I hope that you are able to enjoy it, watch some football, eat some good food.
Hey, the kids are home. It's going to be a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Double D.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Thank you, Dan, and a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Breast Street Beat right here on The Word on Woodward this week and every week. Another big thank you to Dan Dickerson for joining us, and a happy Thanksgiving to him and his family. Now I'm going to toss it over to Art for today's headliner.
Thank you, Daniela. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite. Our guest is longtime NHL executive, league executive. I mean, I could go on, USA Hockey, and currently an analyst for Sportsnet. Man that truly does not need an introduction, as I say a lot on this show, but it is Brian Burke. Brian, thanks for joining us. Really, really appreciate your time.
I really appreciate you having me on. Thanks, guys.
I wanted to you wrote a book, Burke's Law, A Life in Hockey. And I'm wondering, you've had such an illustrious life in this sport. Why did you finally decide, there you go, why did you finally decide to put pen to paper, as they say, and write a book?
Well, after we won the Cup in Anaheim in 2007, Stephen Brunt, who writes great sports book and wrote this one with me, asked me about doing a book, and I said I had too much hockey left in front of me. But I started taking notes, thinking there would be a book here someday. So my last year in Calgary, the late, great Ken King told me in February that I would not be coming back at the end of the year, and that was the deal we made. At the end of each year, we could each review it. And so I had a little more time on my hands, so I started doing an outline for the book, and then turned it over to Stephen Brunt, and here we are.
Well, it's really a fascinating book. I mean, I have 3 pages of notes here of questions to ask you, and we only have limited time. But one thing that I know that Red Wing fans are very familiar with Igor Larionov, obviously the professor, the Russian 5. He began his career in Vancouver. I tell people all the time, I believe he's a living hero, actually. But you were pretty instrumental in getting him over to Vancouver and beginning his NHL career. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the Russians had promised us, the Vancouver Canucks owners, Mr. and Mrs. Griffiths, had been promised that the first Russian player would come to Vancouver. In fact, Sergei Pryakin went to Calgary first, and then Larionov and Krutov came over. And I didn't, be honest with you, I didn't have that much to do with Igor coming over. but what a joy he was to have. I tell the story in the book. He made a play. He was looking down, battling for the puck behind the net. He's a left shot. He's battling with a much bigger defenseman. We had a guy, Jimmy Stanley, come off the bench, and he made a tape-to-tape backhand pass without ever looking. And Pat and I looked at the tape afterwards, and we're like, he never looked. So I asked Igor, how did you spot House? Jimmy Stanley's nickname was House. How did you spot House coming off the bench? He said, I looked in the glass. He saw the reflection in the glass and put a tape-to-tape pass on.
Wow.
And I thought, that's when we got someone special.
Well, yeah, what's interesting about that, and not jumping ahead about the Russian Five, but when Scotty decided to put them together, and actually I think it was Igor himself that said, maybe you've got 5 of us, let's see what we can do. Did you know that they would, quote unquote, revolutionize the game?
Well, I went and watched the documentary, and no, I didn't. I didn't think they'd be as good as they were. I knew they'd be a problem for opposing teams, but they were better than I thought they'd be. And I think most people who say differently aren't telling the truth. The fact is they were special, and you don't see a lot of special hockey. We have a great league, but I don't use that term special very often. I reserve that for very few cases, and they were special.
When you look at the book, what do you hope that people take out of this book about you and about your life? I've seen so many reviews where they call you the most misunderstood guy in hockey, or a guy that's never really gotten his due. Do you look at it that way, or are you just very appreciative of the life you've been able to lead?
It's more the latter. Like, to me, and you know this, you know about me, I don't really care what many people think. The book isn't an attempt to make me look good. Number one about the book, I hope people who buy it enjoy it. It's not cheap to buy a book. Everyone who steps up and buys it, I hope they enjoy it. What they get from it, I hope, is an intimate look at how it is to be a GM, managing up with ownership, handling star players, handling coaches, handling the media, how difficult it is. And what I told Steve when I hired him is I said, I want people reading this book to feel like they're standing next to me on the draft floor when I do the deal for the Sedins, or sitting in my office when I do another trade. And I think he really captured that. So I hope you enjoy it. Hope you learn some things about running a team. There's some rules in there and some things that I live by that you might find interesting. But most of all, I hope you enjoy it.
Well, you know, I wanted to get into the rules, but what I really like is where you break down almost the kind of a pyramid style, like the old John Wooden way of first line, second line, what you look for. And I know you've been very complimentary with the job Steve Yzerman has done since he's become general manager of the Detroit Red Wings. So keeping that in mind, I want to just very quickly, I don't want to give everything away and have you expound on it. I know people aren't listening to hear me speak. But your first line, 1 guy with size. Second line, 2 guys with size. Third line, you have size fighter and a disciple. Fourth is a great fighter and he disciples. 13th forward is a toughness. He can fight. And then your first pair defensemen are skill. Your second ones are size, and then 1 size, 1 fighter on the third pair. I guess that would be over years of putting teams together. And if it kind of looks like this is the way Steve wants to build these Red Wings, can you expound a little bit on that?
Well, that's what you're referring to is the Anaheim model. You'd have to modify it now. That was a straight top 6, bottom 6 team, and a straight top 4, bottom 2D. And you'd have to modify that now to be a top 9, bottom 3. But I think you saw in the playoffs, it still is important that you can play physical hockey. And I think the biggest difference in the finals was that one team wasn't able to keep up physically. And so to me, I look at what Steve's done and I admire him greatly. And I think they're on the right track because I think they are putting together a blend of bite and skill. You still need bite. And God, I hope the day comes when we don't ever play a game where bite isn't necessary.
Well, when you look at the physical side, and obviously Detroit, going back to, even before the Bruce brothers, I mean, Gordie Howe was not exactly, a timid player, to say the least. I mean, it's always been appreciated in this city. I mean, you're an American, and you know that Detroit's always been kind of a gritty, blue-collar city, going even back to the old black and blue division in the NFL. I'm kind of curious, are you a little bit, disappointed that fighting or the toughness is being taken away from this game?
Yeah, I worry about it. So here's what I say to people. They say, oh, you're just a dinosaur. I don't want to go back to like when I played in the American League. We're a tail end of the Broad Street Bullies. I played for the Flyers farm team in Portland, Maine in the American League, and we had a really tough team. We were on the tail end of that. We had some nights 7-8 fights. We had 3-hour games. We emptied the bench, I think, 6 or 8 times that year, including once in the Calder Cup semifinals, for God's sake. We had a bench clearing brawl. I don't want to go back to those days. But I worry, I see some nights where I see too much flag football. Too many games where there's not enough contact, not enough passion, not enough interest, not enough reaction. And I think we have to keep walking that tightrope. So the game has never been better than it's been now in terms of skill. And that's a good thing. I applaud that. But we can't get away from our roots. Our roots are it's a full contact game. There's no out of bounds on a hockey rink. There's only 2 sports where there's no out of bounds, ring sports and hockey. Everywhere else, there's a place you can step and be safe. So we've got to keep that blue-collar element in our game. I think it's critical. I think fans everywhere like it, not just Detroit.
Right. No, certainly that's a great thing. I want to get into your 4 rules real quickly as we have time. Number 1, be the hardest working player on the ice. Be a coach's dream. I'm kind of paraphrasing these, obviously. Be a great teammate and play hockey with fearlessness. I mean, is that a tough sell? I mean, when you address a team, when you're in charge of a team, do you lay these rules out? Is this the edict that you want all your teams to play by?
No, those were my 4 rules. I didn't start playing hockey till I moved to Minnesota when I was 12, or I turned 13. So I started playing hockey at 13, and anyone in Detroit knows you're never going to make it if you start that late. So I came up with these 4 rules for myself, and I would encourage young hockey players, boys and girls, these are 4 useful rules. Number 1, be the hardest worker on the ice, practice and games. I don't like guys who just work in games.
Right.
2, be a coach's dream. So I was always in position. I'd always play the last period, the last minute of every period. I killed penalties. And I was never out of position where the coach could stop the film and say, Berkey, why are you over here? So the coach knows he can rely on you. Number 3, be an indispensable teammate. Look after your teammates. If one of them looks down, say, hey, what's up? How can I help? Take the freshman out for dinner. Do the right things. And 4th was play hard. And that included, in my case, playing tough. But anyone who plays hard, that carries a premium. That carries a premium at any level. College hockey, junior hockey, pro hockey. So any young player, read those 4 rules. And by the way, this is not a kid's book, but read those 4 rules. And if you follow them, they'll take you pretty far.
Right now, it appears that there's a season going to happen. I think everyone's looking forward to it. It's still in discussion. Anytime I hear labor strife and owners and players and all that, I get a little bit giddy because this league is, you know as well as anybody, it shut itself down for a year. They've had, all kinds of labor difficulties with lockouts. Where do you think we are as far as that?
Well, I think you're talking about, this is a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, hopefully. It was 100 years ago was the last time we had a pandemic of this size. And we're adjusting on the fly. And this requires creativity and flexibility on both sides. And the fact is, and the NHL and NFL and NBA and Major League Baseball are going to have to deal with this now. What's it going to look like going forward? And they're 50-50 partners, the NHL and the NHLPA.
Right.
So they struck a deal based on what they thought the facts were back in August or whenever they did the deal to come back to the bubbles. Now it's a totally different landscape. There's not a vaccine. There's not going to be full crowds. There's not going to be any fans in some buildings. Unless local authorities allow socially distanced attendance, there won't be any fans. So the owners are taking a massive hit. The players own half of that. So they're going to have to be creative and figure out a way to play these games. We have to play. And my message to the players would be, I said at the time, and one of the things I feel is we've been good at Sportsnet about calling these issues out in real time.
Right.
I said when they shut down, it would be a flat cap for 5 years. Everyone says, no, 2. It's going to be flat for 5 years.
Right.
The revenues are not rebounding here quickly enough. It's not possible to happen. And so I said at the time, look for a 40% rollback in player salaries. And it looks like that's what they're going to get to play if they play. Now, I'd say to players, 60% of what you're making is better than 0% of what you're making. Teams will actually lose less money if they don't play, but we have to play. They've got to find a solution here.
Well, I hope they do, and I hope it. It happens very, very soon. I certainly, even though the Red Wings are in a rebuilding mode right now, you know as well as anybody.
Listen, I got news for you. If you're a Detroit fan, there's a lot of good news in Detroit. Like Steve Yzerman is doing a marvelous job rebuilding things. They're way ahead of where they were. They're way ahead of where people thought they would be. I love the patience with the coach. I think Jeff Blashill's a really good coach, and I don't think he deserves to get replaced unless and until he has enough talent to win and can't. He hasn't had that opportunity. I love the patience with the coach. The moves they've made, the draft picks, they're going to be just fine.
You know, Steve Yzerman gets it. He's always gotten it, whether he was a player or an executive, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think the Red Wings are in great hands with Steve Yzerman calling the shots.
Well, if you look at Tampa Bay's championship team, and Julien Brisebois addressed some very specific needs and deserves a lot of credit, but the guts of that team was put together by Steve Yzerman. I generally think average players make better coaches and better GMs because they have to know the game better. A lot of great players get by on instinct alone. A lot of great players don't want the tension and pressure that comes with it. A lot of great players have enough money, they don't need the aggravation. And that's why a lot of great players don't get into management. But Stevie, I remember when he was working for Tampa, it's like his first or second year out. And I bumped into him in a minor league game somewhere. I forget where we were. I want to say Milwaukee maybe. But I saw him somewhere, and he walked over to me and goes, I had no idea how hard you guys worked. The players, they think everyone just shows up and plays, right? But He worked at it. He's done a great job, and Detroit will be back where they want to be real soon.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Burke's Law, A Life in Hockey, a great read. This time of year with the holidays coming, it would be perfect gift for any hockey fan. I've admired you a long time, Brian.
Anyone over 18.
Oh, 18, right. Remember, he has stressed it already. It is not a children's book.
There's a lot of inappropriate language in there.
Okay, well, hey, it's right up my alley. I still read Ball 4 at least once a year. So I'm kind of used to that. Brian Burke, thank you so very much. I really enjoy your work on Sportsnet. You've been really just a great ambassador for this game for many, many years. Nothing but success, and thank you for joining us today on The Headliner.
My pleasure for joining you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of The Headliner presented by Miller Lite. Miller Lite, the original light beer. It's only 96 calories. It tastes great, and it is available for delivery. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Art. Another big thank you to Brian Burke for joining us for The Headliner. Great interview and had some great things to say about Steve Yzerman and this Red Wings team. Now we're going to jump into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA. And of course, we are going to bring in Carly for this one. Carly, what have you found for us today?
Thanks, Danielle. All right. First things first, speaking of Brian Burke, by the way, our great interview. That was really, really cool to hear you guys go back and forth. But another person he was praising is Kendall Coyne, who was just hired by the Chicago Blackhawks as the organization's first ever female player development coach. So round of applause to Kendall Coyne, really paving the way, a trailblazer. Give herself a good old Carly pat on the back, because that is amazing.
I was clapping when you said Carly pat on the back.
Oh, congrats to her once again. And as you can see, Brian Burke giving her some nice words of encouragement. And also on the Tiger side of things, big happy birthday to Jamer Candelario. Really, really cool. Crazy to think that we were born in the same year, but Candyman, 2020 Tigers of the Year. Big happy birthday to him. I mean, how much are you eating birthday cake today? And then hopefully he's celebrating Thanksgiving on Thursday, and he can eat just as much on that day. And last but not least, we would like to talk about how Thanksgiving is, like I just said, on Thursday. And Art and Daniela, I don't know if you guys cook much, and I know this year is definitely looking a lot different than previous years, but what are you guys cooking? Can you cook? Do you cook? What does it look like? Who's making the turkey? Who's making the stuffing? Who's making the gravy? Who's making the pie? Are you guys making any of that?
Okay, well, I'll be the first to say this. I'm not a great cook. I don't really enjoy it. But there is a dish that I make for Thanksgiving that I really like. And it's like, I'd have to look, honestly, I only look at the recipe for Thanksgiving, so I'd have to look at it again. But it's sweet potatoes, and it has like cinnamon in there, some honey. It's like a little sweet potato casserole, but no marshmallows. I'm not a fan of the marshmallows on top.
I wanted to try that this year, the marshmallows. That sounds good. How about you, Art? Anything?
Thanksgiving is actually the one holiday where I do not cook. As a matter of fact, I usually, though, cook a lot. I put myself through school as a short order cook. I worked in a lot of restaurants in Ann Arbor over the years, and so I can actually cook when I apply myself. But I don't really do much on Thanksgiving. That's the one where I usually take a step back. I think that there's a lot of people in my family that make their own special dishes that they do. Like my mother makes this made a killer stuffing over the years, and as a matter of fact, passed down that recipe, and but it's really, really traditional. I really think if you look at Thanksgiving out of all the holidays, that table or that spread doesn't really change year to year. It's basically everybody has the same food. They may modify a recipe to, your family's taste, but overall, every Thanksgiving spread looks like every Thanksgiving spread, or at least it always has to me, with the turkey being prominent. But I will tell you this, and I know I've said this before, the one thing that I wonder if you guys look back at it today and say, well, why is turkey so huge, or why is turkey so big, or why is it called Turkey Day? But honest, I swear, when I was growing up, we ate turkey one day a year, and it was on Thanksgiving. It was not this big meat product that it is today. It was not that way. I mean, this was a very special occasion. It was Turkey Day. Everybody ate turkey, and then bam, it was over. I mean, you didn't see it until the next Thanksgiving. That's not the way turkey is today, obviously. But for many, many years, like my niece or something, she'll say, well, what's the big whoop about turkey? I mean, because you can eat it every single day, and it was not that way. I mean, always. Yeah. It was never that way.
Yeah, go ahead, Carly.
No, seriously. I'm being honest with you. It snowed on Thanksgiving all the time, despite what Kevin Allen said. And turkey was a once a year meal. Once a year on Thanksgiving, and then leftovers, sandwiches and stuff for about a week, and then turkey was done. It was over. Kind of like this show should have been many, many minutes ago.
Well, Art, since you just love to talk, it can't be over.
I can't help it. I'm real. When they say we're doing an hour show, I'm thinking, God, don't drink any coffee today.
One last question for you guys before we wrap things up. Of course, I have to ask, with Thanksgiving being about being grateful for things, what are you guys grateful for this year? Daniela, you start first.
I have to be grateful that I moved into my first home. That's actually mine. I bought my first house, so I'm grateful that I get to celebrate it here with Vince, and we have our own place now. So that's definitely the number one thing I'm grateful for. And all of my family being healthy too. That's great news.
That is great news, especially in this.
I would say without question that COVID-19 has impacted all of us, but has not impacted my family directly. And I am really, really thankful for that because, as Brian Burke said, this is a pandemic. 100 years ago was the last time something like this happened with the Spanish flu. So, I'm really, really thankful about that. I hope that, this coming year, there's a vaccine, we get back to normalcy. I'm really looking forward to being up in Traverse City in September in 2021 with the start of development camp and, the prospects tournament. And development camp, I guess now is at Little Caesars Arena. They switched it. It used to be in Traverse City, but, prospects tournament and all that. But I really do think good health, and I'm thankful and for that, because it hasn't directly impacted me or my family, yet I still have a lot of empathy. And I'm getting reports all the time that, the junior leagues in Sweden had to shut down because of COVID-19. 2 guys on Team Canada on the World Junior roster, and they're in a bubble, just tested positive for COVID-19. So, it's kind of scary. And because it's still such an unknown, not having anyone in my family directly impacted by it, I am really, really thankful, because I've got a lot of people in my family that, are risk takers. And so I worry about them a lot. But so far, everything is cool. So I guess that's really what I'm thankful for.
What about you, Carly?
I second both of that. The health and happiness of my friends and family and all my loved ones, and just being able to pick up a phone or hop on Zoom and have a Thanksgiving dinner is just not the same, but good enough for me. Happy to have them all with me, but not physically. So a lot of things to be thankful for this year, and also grateful that we are all still doing what we love and being able to bring information to everyone on this show. But with that, I hope you guys have an amazing Thanksgiving. I can't wait to hear about all the canned cranberry that you're eating, Art.
Oh. He doesn't cook on Thanksgiving, but he opens up like 20
Remember,
cans.
shake it.
The can.
Open it up.
Right,
Open it up and shake it.
All right, that does it for Let's Socialize. Thank you, Carly, and a big thank you to AAA. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. And we almost made it in under an hour, guys, but we have come to the end of the Word on Woodward for today. Be sure to like, subscribe, turn on your live notifications so you don't miss a single second of the Word on Woodward. But if you did miss anything today or any past shows, you can check out the interviews at the Word on Woodward YouTube page. Or, of course, you can listen to the show as a podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. So make sure you check that out this holiday weekend. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope you eat some great food and everyone stays safe and stays healthy. The Word on Woodward will be back next Tuesday at noon. So we'll see you guys then.